Hello there, and welcome to the Timeless Historian channel. Tonight, we're travelling back to the Middle Ages, a time of knights, castles, and chivalry. At least, that's what Hollywood wants you to believe. The reality? You'd be lucky to make it to sunset. So before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Welcome to the year 1348. You've just opened your eyes in medieval Europe, and the first sensation isn't visual, it's olfactory. The smell hits you like a physical force. It's a combination of unwashed human bodies, animal dung, rotting straw, stagnant water, and something that died 3 weeks ago in the corner that nobody's bothered to investigate. Your modern nose is trying to process information it was never designed to handle. Medieval people are used to this. You are not. Your bed, and we're using that term very loosely, is a wooden platform with a straw mattress. The straw hasn't been changed since last autumn. It's now home to an entire civilization of parasites. Fleas, bedbugs, lice, and mites have established a functioning society in your bedding, complete with social structures and reproductive cycles. You are not the primary resident of this bed. You're just the food source. Every morning you wake up covered in bites. Some are fresh, red, and itching intensely. Others are a few days old and infected because you scratch them with your filthy fingernails. Medieval beds could contain thousands of bugs. Thousands. Your mattress is less of a sleeping surface and more of an insect metropolis where you're the main course at every meal. The blanket covering you weighs approximately 30 pounds. It's made from unwashed wool that still contains all the natural sheep oils, sweat from every person who's ever used it, and stains from incidents we won't discuss. When you move this blanket, dust particles and dead skin cells billow into the air like some kind of medieval snow globe. The blanket hasn't been washed in years, possibly decades. Washing it would require hauling hundreds of gallons of water, heating them over a fire, and spending an entire day scrubbing. Nobody has that kind of time. Your pillow is a cloth sack stuffed with straw, chicken feathers, and possibly some dried beans that add a nice crunching sound every time you move your head. Rich people have pillows stuffed with down feathers. You have agricultural waste in a bag. The pillow smells like the barn because half of its contents came from the barn. Let's talk about your sleeping arrangements. You're not sleeping alone. You're in a one-room house with your entire family. Your parents, your 4 brothers, your 3 sisters, possibly a grandparent, and your cousin, who showed up last year and just never left. There are no separate bedrooms. There are no bedrooms at all. There's just one room where everyone sleeps, eats, and lives together. Oh, and you're also sharing this space with livestock. There's a goat named Mabel, 2 chickens, and a pig called Henry. The animals live inside because it's winter and they'd freeze to death outside. Their body heat helps warm the house, which is great, except they also produce waste, which is less great. The smell of animal urine and feces is just part of your daily atmosphere. Your family is already waking up around you. Your mother looks about 70 years old. She's actually 33. Multiple pregnancies, constant manual labour, and 0 medical care have aged her dramatically. She's had 9 children. 4 of them died before their 5th birthday. This was completely normal. Infant and child mortality was so high that parents sometimes didn't bother naming children until they were a few years old because there was a good chance they wouldn't survive. Your father is 36 and looks like he's been carved from old boot leather. He's missing half his teeth. The ones that remain are brown, rotting, and painful. He has a persistent cough from breathing in dust and mould for decades. His hands are gnarled and swollen from arthritis, which is weird because he's only in his 30s, but constant manual labour in cold, damp conditions destroys your joints. He walks with a limp from an injury he sustained 5 years ago, when a plough handle broke and smashed into his leg. The wound never healed properly. It's still painful. He'll have this limp for the rest of his life. Your siblings are in various states of health, which is to say, not great. Your oldest brother Thomas has been coughing up blood for 2 months. It might be tuberculosis. It might be pneumonia. Nobody knows, because there are no doctors for peasants. There's a village, wise woman who knows some herbal remedies, but her main medical technique involves bloodletting, which definitely won't help Thomas's coughing. Your sister Margaret is 14 and already pregnant. She got married last year to a man from the next village. The marriage was arranged by your fathers, who traded some land access and a goat for the union. Margaret had never met her husband before the wedding day. She didn't get a say in the matter. Women don't get a say. Marriage is a property transaction, and women are part of the property being exchanged. The house itself is falling apart. The roof is thatched straw and reeds, which sounds rustic and charming until you realise it leaks constantly. It rained last night, so there are puddles on the floor. The thatch is also rotting, which means it's full of holes, which means birds, mice and rats live in your ceiling. Sometimes they fall through. Last week a dead mouse landed on your father during dinner. He just picked it up, threw it to the chickens, and kept eating. The walls are made of wattle and daub, which is basically sticks woven together and covered with mud, straw and animal dung. Yes, your walls are partially made of poop. The daub is cracking and falling off in places, leaving gaps that let in cold air and small animals. Your father keeps saying he'll repair it, but he works from dawn to dusk 6 days a week. So when exactly is he supposed to find time for home repairs? The floor is packed earth. Not wood, not stone, dirt. Over the years, this dirt floor has absorbed spilled food, animal waste, human waste from the occasional accident, and various other liquids. The floor is essentially a compressed layer of biological material that's been packed down by foot traffic. You occasionally sweep it with a broom made of twigs, but that just redistributes the filth. The floor is a permanent part of the house's smell. There are no windows. Glass is for rich people. Churches have stained glass windows. Castles have glass. Your house has holes in the wall covered with wooden shutters that you can close when it's raining or very cold, which makes the inside completely dark. The only light source is the fire in the hearth, and whatever sunlight makes it through the gaps in the walls and the open door. The door can't close properly because the hinges broke months ago and nobody knows how to fix them. Your body aches in ways you didn't know were possible. You're 27 years old, which in medieval terms makes you middle-aged. Life expectancy for peasants who survived childhood was around 40 to 50 years, and you're already more than halfway there. Every joint in your body hurts. Your back sounds like someone snapping tree branches when you try to sit up. Your knees click and crack. Your shoulders are constantly sore from carrying heavy loads. This is just what being alive feels like. Pain is your baseline state of existence. You swing your legs off the bed and immediately regret it. The floor is freezing. It's February, which means it's about 35 degrees Fahrenheit outside, maybe 2 degrees Celsius, and it's not much warmer inside. The fire died overnight, so there's no heat except what's generated by 10 human bodies and 3 farm animals huddled in one room. You can see your breath. Your fingers are stiff from cold. Your toes are numb. Everyone in the room is doing the same slow, painful process of waking up. Groaning, coughing, scratching at bug bites, trying to generate some warmth through movement. Your mother is already up, trying to restart the fire from last night's embers. Her hands shake from the cold as she blows on the coals, adding tiny pieces of straw and wood until a flame catches. Fire is precious. Letting it go completely out means having to restart it from scratch using a flint and steel, which takes forever and often doesn't work. Welcome to morning in medieval Europe. You're alive, but barely, and the day has only just begun. You've managed to extract yourself from the bug-infested straw pile. Your body is now making urgent biological demands. You need to urinate, and possibly more. This is where your day takes a turn from uncomfortable to genuinely horrifying, because medieval toilet facilities make modern porta-potties look like luxury spas. In your one-room house, there is a wooden bucket in the corner. That's it. That's the bathroom. The bucket is about half full because your father and brothers have already used it this morning. The bucket is not hidden behind a curtain or a door. There is no privacy. It's just sitting there in the corner of the room where everyone eats and sleeps. When you use it, your entire family can see you. They try not to look, but in a one-room house, there's nowhere else to look. The bucket itself is a repurposed wooden pail that previously held milk or grain. It's never been properly cleaned. The wood has absorbed years of use, giving it a permanent stain and an odour that could strip paint. The bucket has no lid, so the smell just wafts through the room constantly. You've gotten used to it mostly, but sometimes when the wind shifts, you get a fresh whiff that makes your eyes water. You squat over the bucket and do your business while your sister prepares breakfast 3 feet away, and your brother feeds the chickens. Nobody comments, nobody makes eye contact. This is just life. Privacy is a luxury that won't be invented for another few centuries. The wiping situation is its own special nightmare. There is no toilet paper. The Chinese invented toilet paper in the 6th century, but that information hasn't made it to medieval Europe, and even if it had, you couldn't afford it. Your options for cleaning yourself are hay from the barn, leaves if you can find any in February, moss if it hasn't frozen, old rags, or just the edge of your tunic. Most people opt for hay because it's readily available, though it's scratchy and not particularly effective. Some, wealthier peasants might have a few wool scraps they use as reusable toilet cloths, but your family can't afford to waste cloth on wiping. Once the bucket is full, someone has to empty it. That someone is usually you or one of your siblings. You grab the bucket by the handle, trying not to slosh the contents, and head outside to the street. There's no sewer system. There's no designated waste area. There's no sanitation infrastructure of any kind. You're supposed to yell Gardez-vous, which is a corruption of the French gare à l'eau, meaning watch out for water. Then you dump the bucket's contents directly into the street. The street is not paved. It's a dirt path that runs between houses. This dirt path is now also a flowing river of human and animal waste, rotting food, dead animals, and mysterious liquids. Every house on the street dumps their waste here. The butcher dumps animal guts and blood. The tanner dumps chemicals and flesh scraped from hides. Families dump their chamber pots. The result is a thick, viscous stream of filth running down the centre of every street. The smell is indescribable. It's beyond bad. It's a physical presence that hangs in the air like a toxic fog. Your nose eventually adapts through sheer survival instinct. You stop consciously noticing it, which is somehow worse than noticing it because it means you've accepted this as normal. Walking anywhere requires careful navigation. You're dodging piles of feces, stepping over dead rats, trying not to slip in mysterious puddles. The wealthy wear pattens, which are wooden platform overshoes that lift them several inches above. The filth. They look like medieval stilts. You can't afford pattens, so you're walking through this nightmare in leather shoes that have holes in them. Your feet are wet with things you try very hard not to think about. Medieval cities actually passed laws about waste disposal. In 1357, London banned throwing waste in the streets and imposed fines for violations. The law was completely ignored. Everyone violated it because there was no alternative. Where else were people supposed to put their waste? The law didn't provide an answer, so people kept dumping in the streets, and the authorities eventually gave up trying to enforce it. Some cities employed gong farmers, which is possibly the worst job title in human history. Gong is medieval slang for feces. Gong farmers were men who were paid to shovel human waste out of cesspits, public latrines, and street gutters. They worked at night, so the general public didn't have to watch this process. They hauled the waste to designated areas, outside the city walls. They were paid relatively well because nobody else would do this job. They were also socially ostracized because they smelled like concentrated human waste all the time, no matter how much they washed. Let's talk about public latrines for a moment. In larger towns, there are public toilets, which sound civilized until you see them. They're long wooden benches with holes cut in them, positioned over a pit or a stream. No dividers, no doors, no privacy at all. You sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers, all of you defecating together while making awkward conversation about the weather or the price of grain. The bench is smooth from years of use. The holes are roughly circular. The pit below is anywhere from 10 to 30 feet deep. It fills up slowly over months or years until it needs to be emptied by gong farmers. The smell from these public latrines is so intense that you can smell them from several streets away. People avoid walking near them if possible. There are documented cases of people falling into latrine pits and drowning in sewage. In 1183, Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa was hosting a meeting of nobles in a building in Erfurt, Germany. The wooden floor collapsed under the weight of all the people, and dozens of nobles fell into the cesspit below. Many drowned in human waste. This is how they died, not in battle, not from disease. They drowned in poop. Medieval life was not dignified. If you're lucky enough to work in a castle, you might think the toilet situation is better. It's not. Castles have garderobes, which are small rooms built into the exterior wall with a hole in the floor. The hole opens directly to the outside, dropping waste down the castle wall into the moat or into a pit at the base of the wall. This sounds convenient until you consider several problems. First, garderobes are built into the exterior wall, which means there's a direct opening to the outside. In winter, sitting on a garderobe means exposing your bare bottom to free. The street is not paved. It's a dirt path that runs between houses. This dirt path is now also a flowing river of human and animal waste, rotting food, dead animals, and mysterious liquids. Every house on the street dumps their waste here. The butcher dumps animal guts and blood. The tanner dumps chemicals and flesh scraped from hides. Families dump their chamber pots. The result is a thick, viscous stream of filth running down the center of every street. The smell is indescribable. It's beyond bad. It's a physical presence that hangs in the air like a toxic fog. Your nose eventually adapts through sheer survival instinct. You stop consciously noticing it, which is somehow worse than noticing it because it means you've accepted this as normal. Walking anywhere requires careful navigation. You're dodging piles of feces, stepping over dead rats, trying not to slip in mysterious puddles. The wealthy wear pattens, which are wooden platform overshoes that lift them several inches above. The filth. They look like medieval stilts. You can't afford pattens, so you're walking through this nightmare in leather shoes that have holes in them. Your feet are wet with things you try very hard not to think about. Medieval cities actually passed laws about waste disposal. In 1357, London banned throwing waste in the streets and imposed fines for violations. The law was completely ignored. Everyone violated it because there was no alternative. Where else were people supposed to put their waste? The law didn't provide an answer, so people kept dumping in the streets, and the authorities eventually gave up trying to enforce it. Some cities employed gong farmers, which is possibly the worst job title in human history. Gong is medieval slang for feces. Gong farmers were men who were paid to shovel human waste out of cesspits, public latrines, and street gutters. They worked at night, so the general public didn't have to watch this process. They hauled the waste to designated areas. Outside the city walls, they were paid relatively well because nobody else would do this job. They were also socially ostracized because they smelled like concentrated human waste all the time, no matter how much they washed. Let's talk about public latrines for a moment. In larger towns, there are public toilets, which sound civilized until you see them. They're long wooden benches with holes cut in them, positioned over a pit or a stream. No dividers, no doors, no privacy at all. You sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers, all of you defecating together while making awkward conversation about the weather or the price of grain. The bench is smooth from years of use. The holes are roughly circular. The pit below is anywhere from 10 to 30 feet deep. It fills up slowly over months or years until it needs to be emptied by gong farmers. The smell from these public latrines is so intense that you can smell them from several streets away. People avoid walking near them if possible. There are documented cases of people falling into latrine pits and drowning in sewage. In 1183, Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa was hosting a meeting of nobles in a building in Erfurt, Germany. The wooden floor collapsed under the weight of all the people, and dozens of nobles fell into the cesspit below. Many drowned in human waste. This is how they died, not in battle, not from disease. They drowned in poop. Medieval life was not dignified. If you're lucky enough to work in a castle, you might think the toilet situation is better. It's not. Castles have garderobes, which are small rooms built into the exterior wall with a hole in the floor. The hole opens directly to the outside, dropping waste down the castle wall into the moat or into a pit at the base of the wall. This sounds convenient until you consider several problems. First, garderobes are built into the exterior wall, which means there's a direct opening to the outside. In winter, sitting on a garderobe means exposing your bare bottom to freezing wind blowing up through the hole. The cold air rushing up through the toilet hole is so intense that some garderobes have wooden seats to insulate you slightly, but they're still miserably cold. Second, enemies know about guard-robes and have used them to break into castles. There are historical records of soldiers climbing up toilet chutes to invade castles during sieges. Imagine defending your castle when suddenly an enemy soldier emerges from the bathroom covered in filth but armed and ready to fight. This is why some castles built iron grates over their guard-robes. Third, the waste drops onto the castle wall or into the moat below, where it accumulates. The outside of castle walls often have dark streaks running down them. That's centuries of human waste staining the stone. The moat, if the waste goes there, becomes a cesspool of stagnant water and sewage. Falling into a castle moat is a death sentence, not from drowning, but from the infections you'll contract from the contaminated water. Fourth, garderobes are dark, there's no lighting. You're sitting in pitch blackness, hoping you're aimed correctly at the hole. Sometimes people miss. Sometimes the next person discovers this by sitting down. The horror is indescribable. The toilet situation leads directly to disease. Medieval people don't understand germ theory. They don't know that feces contains bacteria and parasites. They don't connect their sanitation practices with their constant illnesses. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid, and various parasitic infections spread rapidly through contaminated water and waste. These diseases kill thousands of people every year, but nobody understands why. The water supply is contaminated because the wells are right next to where people dump their waste. Groundwater seeps through soil, carrying bacteria and parasites from the waste into the drinking water. Everyone gets sick from the water. That's why everyone drinks ale. Instead, because the brewing process involves boiling water, which kills most of the harmful organisms. So you've finished using the bucket. You've wiped with hay that may have left splinters in unfortunate places. You've dumped the bucket in the street, adding to the river of filth. Your feet are wet with sewage, and it's still only about 6 a.m. Breakfast awaits. You've survived the toilet situation, which is no small accomplishment. Your feet are wet with things you're trying to forget. You're back inside the one-room house where your entire family lives. Your stomach is growling. It's time for breakfast, which is going to disappoint you in ways you didn't think food could disappoint a person. You sit down on a 3-legged wooden stool that wobbles because the legs are different lengths. Your father made this stool by hand, and carpentry is not his strength. In front of you is a wooden bowl. This bowl was carved from a single piece of wood by someone in the village who trades bowls for food. The bowl has never been properly washed with soap because soap is expensive and harsh. It gets rinsed with water occasionally, but mostly it just gets wiped out with a rag. The bowl has a permanent stain and a faint smell of everything that's ever been in it. Inside the bowl is pottage. This is your breakfast. This will also be your lunch and your dinner. Pottage is what medieval peasants eat every single day for their entire lives. It's a thick stew made from grains and whatever vegetables you have. Today's pottage is made from barley, some old turnips that are mostly brown, dried peas that have been soaking overnight, and water from the well that hopefully was boiled long enough to kill most of the dangerous organisms. The pottage has been cooking in the same iron pot for the past week. This is a perpetual stew situation. You never fully empty the pot. You just keep adding new ingredients to what's already there. As things get eaten, you add more. As water evaporates, you add more water. The pot hangs over the fire 24 hours a day, constantly simmering, building layers of flavour that range from bland to actively unpleasant. The pot itself is ancient. It's been in your family for generations. It's made of iron, black with soot and burned on residue. The inside has a coating of carbonised food that's probably older than you are. Nobody scrubs this pot clean. You scrape out the worst of the stuck-on bits, rinse it with water and keep cooking. The residue adds flavour, which is a charitable way of saying everything tastes slightly burnt and metallic. The texture of pottage is thick and gloopy. It's not quite liquid, not quite solid. It's a semi-solid sludge that sticks to your wooden spoon and your throat. The consistency is like wallpaper paste. The colour is always some shade of brownish grey, regardless of what vegetables went into it. Everything turns brown eventually. The flavour is difficult to describe to someone who's used to seasoned food. Imagine eating warm mud. Now imagine that mud is made from grains and rotting vegetables. There's no salt because salt costs more than you make in a month. Spices are completely out of the question. Black pepper is worth more than gold by weight. It's imported from India along dangerous trade routes, and by the time it reaches Europe, only the wealthy can afford it. If you're very lucky, your pottage might have an onion in it. Onions are valuable because they store well through winter and add flavour. But your family only has a few onions left, and they need to last until spring, so you get a piece of onion about the size of your thumbnail. You try to make it last, but it's gone in 2 bites. Some peasants grow herbs in small gardens. Parsley, sage, thyme, rosemary. These can be added to pottage for flavour. But it's February, so there are no fresh herbs. You might have some dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, but they've lost most of their flavour after months of hanging in a smoky room. Adding them to pottage makes it taste like smoky dust, which is not an improvement. You harness yourself to a wooden plough because your lord's oxen are reserved for important fields. You pull this 50-pound plough across acres of rocky soil for 6 hours straight. No breaks. An overseer with a stick ensures you don't slow down. At midday, 20 minutes to eat hard bread and an onion, then 6 more hours of ploughing. Your hands blister, bleed, and keep working. Around you, other peasants suffer similarly. One collapses from exhaustion. The overseer yells at him to get up. You work 12 hours, 6 days a week, every week, for your entire life. No vacations, no sick leave, no retirement. You work until your body fails, then you die. Evening finally comes. You stumble home in darkness. Dinner is pottage. Again, your mother added some cabbage, so it tastes slightly different from breakfast. Slightly. You collapse onto your stool, eat your hot grain sludge, chew your rock-hard bread, drink your ale. The family sits by the fire, the only light source. Smoke fills the room from the inadequate chimney hole. Everyone's eyes water, but at least you're warm. After dinner, there's no entertainment. No books, because you can't read and books don't exist for peasants. No games, no leisure time. You're too exhausted for anything except collapsing. Getting ready for bed means nothing. You don't change clothes because you don't have other clothes. You don't brush your teeth because toothbrushes won't be invented for centuries, and your teeth are rotting anyway from all the stone dust in your bread. You simply lie down on the bug-infested straw mattress, pull the filthy wool blanket over yourself, and try to sleep while lice crawl through your hair. Bedbugs feast on your blood, and your family snores around you. Your body aches everywhere. Your hands throb from blisters. Your back spasms from 12 hours of ploughing. Your stomach cramps from inadequate nutrition. Your teeth hurt from chewing hard bread. This is your baseline existence. Pain, hunger, exhaustion, discomfort. This is just life. Outside you can hear the sounds of medieval night. Dogs barking, someone yelling, the church bell marking the hour, possibly a drunk person singing badly about a maiden or a dragon. The streets are dangerous after dark. No lighting, no police, just darkness, and whoever's brave or stupid enough to be out. You try to sleep, but your mind won't quiet. You're thinking about tomorrow's work, about the taxes your lord just raised, about whether the harvest will be sufficient to survive winter, about your brother's persistent cough, about your sister's difficult pregnancy, about the tooth that's been hurting for weeks. You're also itching everywhere. Lice are having a festival on your scalp. Fleas are hosting tournaments on your skin. Bedbugs are conducting their nightly blood feast. You scratch, which provides temporary relief but causes more damage. Your fingernails are filthy, so scratching creates infections. But what choice do you have? Eventually, exhaustion overwhelms discomfort. You drift into fitful sleep, your body trying to recover enough to do everything again tomorrow. You dream briefly of bread that isn't hard, water that won't kill you, and a world where you don't share your bed with insects. Then the church bell rings for morning prayers. Dawn is breaking. Time to get up and do it all over again. Welcome to medieval life. It's not romantic. It's not adventurous. It's just an endless cycle of work, terrible food, and suffering. Let's talk about something we haven't covered yet. Disease. Because if the work doesn't kill you, the diseases probably will. Medieval Europe is a disease factory. The combination of poor nutrition, contaminated water, lack of hygiene, and close living quarters creates perfect conditions for plagues, epidemics, and infections. You're living in 1348, which means the Black Death is currently sweeping through Europe. The plague has already killed millions. It might kill you next. T.E. weak. Medieval people don't understand that the plague is caused by bacteria spread by fleas on rats. They think it's caused by bad air, sin, or God's punishment. They try to treat it with bloodletting, which makes patients worse. Most people who get the plague die within days. But even without the plague, there are plenty of other diseases ready to kill you. Tuberculosis is rampant. It's called consumption because it looks like the disease is consuming the person from the inside. Sufferers cough up blood, lose weight rapidly, and slowly waste away. There's no cure. You just cough until you die. Leprosy is another major fear. Lepers are forced to live outside of towns in colonies, ringing bells to warn healthy people they're approaching. Medieval people believe leprosy is highly contagious and a punishment from God. In reality, it's not very contagious, but the stigma ruins lives. Dysentery is common. It's caused by contaminated water and poor sanitation. Symptoms include severe diarrhea, dehydration, and bloody stools. Many people die from dysentery, especially children and the elderly. Medieval people try to treat it with herbs and prayers. It rarely works. Typhoid fever spreads through contaminated food and water. Sufferers develop high fever, stomach pains, and a characteristic rash. Many die. There's no treatment except rest and fluids, but contaminated water is often what caused the problem, so drinking more water just makes it worse. Smallpox is endemic. It causes high fever and painful pustules all over the body. Many die. Survivors are often left with severe scarring and sometimes blindness. There's no prevention and no cure. You either survive or you don't. Measles, mumps, and whooping cough kill thousands of children every year. These diseases spread easily in crowded households, where multiple children sleep in the same bed. Parents expect to lose several children to disease. It's just normal. Ergot poisoning happens when grain becomes infected with a fungus. Eating infected grain causes hallucinations, convulsions, and gangrene. Entire villages can be affected when the grain supply is contaminated. Medieval people call it St. Anthony's fire and think it's caused by demons. Dental disease is universal. Everyone has rotting teeth. The combination of stone dust in bread, no dental care, and poor nutrition creates perfect conditions for tooth decay. Infected teeth cause abscesses, which can spread to the bloodstream and kill you. Many people die from dental infections. Parasitic worms are extremely common. Roundworms, tapeworms, and other parasites live in your intestines, stealing nutrients and causing malnutrition. You can see them sometimes in your feces. Medieval people try to treat them with herbs, but the herbs rarely work. You just live with parasites eating you from the inside. Lice, fleas, and mites cause constant itching and skin infections. Scratching with dirty fingernails introduces bacteria into wounds. Skin infections can become serious, spreading through the body and causing fever and death. If you get injured, infection is almost guaranteed. There's no concept of sterilizing wounds. People use dirty hands, dirty tools, and dirty bandages. Wounds become infected, then gangrenous. The only treatment for gangrene is amputation, which is done without anesthesia and often leads to death from shock or infection. Medieval medicine is based on the theory of the four humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Doctors believe that disease is caused by an imbalance in these humours. Treatment involves bloodletting, purging, and various herbal remedies. Most of these treatments don't work and many make patients worse. Bloodletting is especially popular. Doctors believe that removing excess blood will restore balance to the humours. They cut open veins or use leeches to drain blood. Patients become weak from blood loss, which makes recovery harder. Many people die from treatments that were supposed to cure them. Surgery exists, but it's primitive and horrifying. Barber surgeons perform operations without anesthesia, without understanding of sterilization, and without proper tools. Operations include tooth extractions, amputations, and removing bladder stones. The pain is unimaginable. Many patients die from shock during surgery or infection afterward. Childbirth is extremely dangerous for women. Maternal mortality rates are high because of infection, hemorrhage, and complications that can't be treated. Many women die in childbirth. Babies often die too. Having multiple children is necessary because you expect to lose several. Mental illness is not understood. People with mental health problems are thought to be possessed by demons or being punished by God. Treatment might include exorcism, beatings, or being locked away. There's no compassion or effective treatment. Life expectancy at birth is around 30 years, but that's heavily skewed by infant mortality. If you survive childhood, you might live to 45 or 50, but those extra years are filled with disease, pain, and disability. People age rapidly from hard labour and poor nutrition. You watch family members die regularly. Your grandparents are long dead. Several of your siblings died as children. Your aunt died in childbirth. Your uncle died from an infected cut. Your neighbour died from the plague. Death is a constant presence. There are no hospitals for common people. Hospitals exist, run by monasteries, but they're mainly for the sick, poor, and pilgrims. Treatment consists of prayer, rest, and basic food. There's little actual medical care. When someone in your family gets sick, you try home remedies. Herbal teas, poultices, prayers. Usually nothing works. You watch them get worse. Eventually they either recover or die. You can't afford a doctor even if one was available. You just hope for the best. The smell of sickness is everywhere. People with open sores, people coughing up blood, people with fever and delirium. You live surrounded by disease and death. It's normalized. You don't react with shock when someone dies. You just accept it and move on because you have to keep working. Funerals are simple. The body is wrapped in a sheet and buried in the churchyard. The priest says some prayers, the family cries, then everyone goes back to work because crops don't harvest themselves and animals still need feeding. This is medieval life. You're one infection away from death. One cut, one cough, one contaminated meal could be the end. And there's nothing you can do about it except pray and hope you're lucky. Let's talk about one more aspect of medieval life that would absolutely destroy you: the complete lack of comfort. Everything in medieval peasant life is designed to be barely functional, with zero consideration for comfort or pleasure. Your house has no insulation. In winter, the temperature inside is barely warmer than outside. You sleep under a wool blanket, huddled with family members for warmth. Your breath is visible inside the house. Ice forms on the inside of the walls. Your fingers go numb from cold. In summer, the house becomes an oven. The thatched roof holds heat. There's no ventilation except the open door and gaps in the walls. The inside temperature can reach 90 or 100 degrees. You sweat constantly. The smell intensifies. Flies and insects multiply. Living in the house becomes unbearable, but where else can you go? There's no comfortable furniture. You sit on rough wooden stools or benches. The wood is unfinished and full of splinters. After hours of sitting, your back and bottom ache. There are no cushions, no padding, just hard wood. Your bed is wooden planks covered with straw. There's no mattress in the modern sense. The straw compresses over time, becoming hard and lumpy. You're essentially sleeping on wooden boards with a thin layer of agricultural waste. Every position is uncomfortable. You wake up multiple times every night with aching joints. There's no privacy, ever. You're constantly surrounded by family members. You can never be alone. You can't have private conversations. You can't have moments of solitude. The concept of privacy doesn't exist. Even your thoughts aren't private because you're constantly worried someone is listening. There's no entertainment, no books, because you can't read and books are rare and expensive. No games beyond simple children's toys. No music except occasional festivals where someone plays a simple instrument. No art except church decorations. Your life is work, eat, sleep, repeat. There's nothing to look forward to except feast days. Time moves slowly when every day is the same. Winter feels like it lasts forever. Summer is brief. The years blend together in a monotonous cycle of planting, growing, harvesting, surviving winter. Nothing changes. Nothing improves. You're born into poverty and you'll die in poverty. You have no control over your life. Your Lord tells you when to work and what to do. The church tells you what to believe and how to behave. Your father arranges your marriage to someone you've never met. You don't get to choose your occupation, your home, your life path. Everything is decided for you. There's no social mobility. You're born a peasant, you'll die a peasant. Your children will be peasants. Their children will be peasants. The idea that you could improve your station in life is laughable. The system is designed to keep you exactly where you are. Hope is in short supply. You might hope for a good harvest. You might hope your children survive childhood. You might hope you don't get the plague. But hoping for a better life, for escape from poverty, for comfort and security, those aren't even concepts you can imagine. Religion offers the only comfort. The church promises that if you suffer patiently in this life, you'll be rewarded in heaven. This is why people are so religious. It's the only thing that makes the suffering bearable. The promise of eternal reward for temporary suffering. You attend Mass every Sunday and on feast days. You listen to sermons in Latin that you don't understand. You participate in rituals that are explained as necessary for salvation. You donate money you can't afford to the church because not doing so might doom your soul. Religion isn't optional, it's survival. The church also controls major life events. Birth, marriage, death, all require church involvement. Baptisms ensure babies' souls go to heaven if they die. Marriage ceremonies legitimize relationships and children. Funerals provide hope of resurrection. The church is woven into every aspect of life, but the church also demands payment. Tithes, which are 10% of your income, go to the church. You're already barely surviving, and you have to give 10% of what little you have. Refusing means excommunication, which is social and spiritual death. Let's talk about the constant fear. You're afraid of starvation if the harvest fails. You're afraid of disease that could kill you or your family. You're afraid of your Lord's anger if you don't work hard enough. You're afraid of hell if you sin. You're afraid of bandits, wolves, and violence. The world feels hostile. Everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the diseases, the social system, the animals, even the food. You live in constant defensive mode, just trying to survive one more day. And here's the thing, you wouldn't last a day in medieval times. Not even close. The physical labor alone would destroy you. Modern people aren't conditioned for 12 hours of manual farming. Your hands would blister and bleed within an hour. Your back would give out by lunch. You'd collapse from exhaustion by afternoon. The food would make you sick. Your stomach isn't used to contaminated water, spoiled vegetables and grain full of stone dust. You'd get dysentery almost immediately. The weak ale would dehydrate you more than hydrate you. The lack of hygiene would disgust you. You couldn't handle not bathing, not washing clothes, sharing living space with animals and insects. You'd scratch your skin raw from bug bites. You'd gag from the smell. The diseases would terrify you. The first time you saw someone with plague symptoms, you'd panic. When your neighbor's child died from measles, you'd be traumatized. Modern people aren't psychologically prepared for the constant presence of death. The social system would enrage you, being told you're property, that you can't leave, that you must work without pay, that your entire existence is at the whim of someone who inherited power. You'd rebel, and rebellion would get you killed or tortured. The lack of comfort would drive you insane. No phone, no entertainment, no comfort food, no soft bed, no privacy, no control over your own life. Modern people need these things. You'd have a psychological breakdown within days. So the next time you're complaining about your commute, your uncomfortable office chair, your bland lunch or your firm mattress, remember, you could be pulling a plough through rocky soil for 12 hours, eating grain sludge for every meal, sleeping on bug-infested straw, and drinking beer for breakfast, because the water will kill you. Suddenly, modern life doesn't seem so bad, does it? Medieval Europe was brutal, filthy, painful, and short. You wouldn't last a day. You wouldn't want to. And that's okay, because you don't have to. You live in a time with running water, modern medicine, comfortable beds, and the ability to choose your own path. Be grateful. Be very grateful. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what historical period you'd like me to cover next. And remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this journey into medieval misery. Until next time, sleep well in your comfortable bed, drink your clean water, and appreciate every moment you're not pulling a plough through frozen soil while covered in lice. Good night. But wait, we haven't even talked about the dangers yet. The actual physical dangers that could kill you on any given day. Let's walk through a typical day and count all the ways you could die. First, you could die from your own house. The thatched roof could catch fire from a spark from the cooking fire. Thatched roofs burn incredibly fast. The entire house could be engulfed in flames within minutes. There's no fire department. No one is coming to save you. You either get out or you burn to death. House fires are common enough that everyone knows someone who died in one. The floor could collapse. Your house is built on dirt with minimal foundation. The wooden support beams are rotting from moisture and age. If too many people stand in one spot, the floor might give way, dropping you into the crawl space below, which is full of rocks, old tools, and possibly the cesspit if it's positioned poorly. The walls could fall in. They're made of mud and sticks. Heavy rain weakens the daub. A strong wind could collapse an entire wall. You could be sleeping and wake up with a wall on top of you, if you wake up at all. Walking to the fields, you could slip in the street filth and crack your skull on a rock. Head injuries are often fatal because there's no treatment. You'd develop a brain bleed and die within days. You could be attacked by a wild animal. Wolves still roam the forest near your village. A hungry wolf wouldn't hesitate to attack a lone person. Bears exist too. Boars are common and aggressive. Any of these animals could kill you. You could be robbed by bandits. The roads are dangerous. Groups of outlaws hide in forests and attack travelers. They'll kill you for your shoes. You're not carrying anything valuable, but they don't know that until after they've stabbed you. While working in the fields, you could be kicked by an ox. A kick from an ox can break bones, rupture organs, or kill you instantly if it hits your head. Oxen are large, strong, and not always well controlled. The plough could break and the handle could swing into your face, shattering your jaw and teeth. Or it could hit your chest and break ribs that puncture your lungs. You'd drown in your own blood, while your fellow peasants watched helplessly. You could step on a rusty nail or sharp piece of metal. The wound would become infected. Without antibiotics, infections spread. Your foot swells, turns black, develops gangrene. The only treatment is amputation. Even that probably won't save you. You could drink from a contaminated water source accidentally. Maybe the ale ran out and you're desperate. One drink of bad water could give you cholera. You'd die from dehydration within days as your body expelled fluids faster than you could replace them. You could eat moldy bread. Mold contains toxins. You'd get violently ill, vomiting, and having diarrhea simultaneously. Dehydration would kill you within a week. A simple cold could turn into pneumonia. Pneumonia fills your lungs with fluid. You'd effectively drown while gasping for air. Medieval medicine has no treatment. You'd suffer for days before dying. Your tooth could abscess. The infection could spread to your bloodstream. You'd develop sepsis, fever, chills, rapid heartbeat, confusion, then death. All from a bad tooth. You could fall from a height. Maybe you're repairing the roof and slip. A 10-foot fall onto hard ground could break your back, paralyzing you. You'd die slowly from complications because you can't move and can't care for yourself. A cart could run over you in the street. Carts are heavy and don't have brakes. The driver might not see you. You'd be crushed under wooden wheels and the weight of whatever the cart is carrying. You could be conscripted into your lord's army. Lords have the right to demand military service from peasants. You'd be given a spear you barely know how to use and marched to a battlefield where trained soldiers would kill you easily. You could be accused of a crime you didn't commit. Medieval justice is not about truth. It's about confession. You could be tortured until you confess to anything. Then you'd be executed, possibly by hanging, possibly by burning, depending on the supposed crime. You could be accused of witchcraft. Maybe your neighbour doesn't like you. Maybe she accuses you of cursing her cow. Witchcraft trials are brutal. The tests are designed to prove guilt. If you float when thrown in water, you're a witch and will be burned. If you sink, you're innocent, but you've drowned. Either way, you die. During winter, you could freeze to death. If the firewood runs out and you can't get more, the cold will kill you. Hypothermia sets in. You'd become confused, then unconscious, then dead. You could starve. If the harvest fails, there's no food. Famine kills thousands. You'd slowly waste away as your body consumed itself. Starvation is a prolonged, agonizing death. You could be trampled in a crowd. Market. Days, festivals, public executions, anywhere crowds gather is dangerous. People panic, push, stampede. You could be knocked down and trampled to death. You could drown. Maybe you're crossing a river and slip. Maybe you fall into a well. You can't swim because no one teaches swimming. You'd panic and go under. A woman could die in childbirth. This deserves special mention because it's so common. 1 in 3 women dies from complications during pregnancy or childbirth. Hemorrhaging, infection, babies positioned wrong, any of these kills. And there's nothing anyone can do except pray. Children face even more dangers. They could fall into the fire. They could be attacked by the family pig. They could eat something poisonous. They could catch any number of childhood diseases. They could be stepped on by a horse. The list is endless. This is why families have many children. They expect to lose several. Let's talk about something modern people take for granted: law and order. It barely exists. There's no police force, no detectives, no forensics. If someone murders you, your family might try to get justice, but probably they won't succeed. Murder investigations consist of asking around and hoping someone saw something. Usually no one did. Violence is common and often goes unpunished. Men fight over insults, property disputes, women. These fights can turn deadly. A punch could knock someone into a wall, cracking their skull. A shove could send someone into a fire. People die from bar fights regularly. Domestic violence is completely legal. Husbands can beat their wives. Parents can beat their children. There's no intervention. No one calls authorities because there are no authorities to call. If a husband beats his wife to death, he might be fined, or he might not face any consequences at all. Rape is common and rarely punished. Women have few rights. If a woman is raped, she's often blamed for tempting the man. The punishment for rape depends entirely on the woman's social status. Rape a noblewoman, and you might be executed. Rape a peasant, and you'll probably face no consequences. Theft is punished harshly, but only if you're caught. The punishment might be hand amputation for stealing bread. The theory is that harsh punishments deter crime. They don't. People are desperate. They steal anyway. The harsh punishments just create more disabled beggars. Public executions are entertainment. Hangings, beheadings, burnings, these are public spectacles that draw crowds. People bring their children. Vendors sell food. It's treated like a festival. Medieval people are desensitized to violence in ways modern people cannot imagine. Torture is legal and common. If you're accused of a crime, you might be tortured to extract a confession. Methods include the rack, which stretches your body until joints dislocate. Thumb screws crush your fingers. Hot irons burn your skin. You'll confess to anything to make it stop. Now, let's talk about social hierarchy and how it makes life worse. You're at the very bottom of medieval society. The hierarchy goes God, Pope, King, high nobility, lesser nobility, knights, clergy, merchants, craftsmen, peasants, and then you. You're below almost everyone. The Lord owns you. Literally. You're tied to his land. If he sells the land, you're part of the sale. You can't leave without permission. If you run away and get caught, you'll be punished severely, possibly killed as an example to others. The Lord can raise your rent at any time. You pay rent in labour, crops, and sometimes money you don't have. If the Lord decides he wants more, you have to give it. There's no negotiation, no contract, just his word, which is law. The Lord has the right of the first night. This is exactly what it sounds like. When a peasant woman marries, the Lord has the legal right to sleep with her first. This right might not always be exercised, but it exists, hanging over every wedding like a threat. The Lord can conscript you for military service, force you to work extra days, take your best crops, or demand your animals. You have no recourse, no ability to protest or negotiate. You just comply or face punishment. The church also demands from you tithes, offerings, fees for baptisms, weddings, funerals. The church is wealthy beyond measure while you starve, but you still have to give. Refusing means excommunication, which is social death. No one will trade with you. Your neighbours will shun you. You'll be isolated and helpless. You can't hunt. The forests belong to the Lord. All the deer, boars and rabbits are his property. If you kill a rabbit to feed your starving family, you're a poacher. The punishment could be hand amputation, blinding, or death. The Lord's game is more valuable than your life. You can't fish in the river. That also belongs to the Lord. You can't collect firewood from the forest without permission. You can't even collect fallen branches. Everything belongs to someone above you. You pay taxes on everything. a tax on using the Lord's mill to grind grain, a tax on using his oven to bake bread, a tax on selling anything at market, a tax on owning livestock, taxes on births, marriages and deaths. You're taxed for existing. When someone in your family dies, the Lord takes your best animal as a death tax. Just died and need that cow to feed your remaining children? Too bad. The Lord takes it. This is called Heriot, and it's perfectly legal. If you want to marry, you need the Lord's permission and must pay a fine. He might refuse permission if he doesn't want to lose your labour to another village. Your personal happiness means nothing. Your children belong to the Lord too. He can demand they work for him instead of you. Your son reaches working age. The Lord might claim him for full-time service. Your daughter is pretty. The Lord might take her as a servant with all that implies. Education doesn't exist for peasants. You can't read or write. You can't learn skills beyond farming. There's no school, no teachers. You learn farming by doing it. That's all you'll ever know. You have no political voice, no vote, no representation. The king makes laws without consulting you. The Lord makes rules without asking your opinion. You have zero input into anything that affects your life. You can't own land. Everything you work belongs to the Lord. The tiny plot you're allowed to farm for your family. Still the Lord's land. He lets you use it. He can take it back any time. Social interactions are dictated by class. You must bow to nobles. You must step aside when they pass. You must remove your hat. You must speak only when spoken to. Failing to show proper deference can result in beatings. You eat different food than nobles. You wear different clothes. You live in different buildings. You're a different class of being in medieval understanding. Some nobles genuinely believe peasants are less than human. They treat you accordingly. If a noble kills a peasant, the punishment is a fine. If a peasant kills a noble, the punishment is horrific execution designed to cause maximum suffering. Your life has less value than a horse. Let's talk about the complete lack of infrastructure. There are no paved roads outside of cities. Travel happens on dirt paths that turn to mud when it rains. A journey of 10 miles might take all day because the roads are so bad. There are no bridges over most rivers. You ford rivers by wading through or paying a ferryman if one exists. People drown crossing rivers regularly. Flash floods happen. The water depth changes. You can't swim. Into the water you go anyway because you have no choice. There are no maps for common people. You navigate by landmarks and asking directions. Getting lost is easy and dangerous. Lost travellers die from exposure, animal attacks or starvation. There are no hotels or inns in small villages. If you're travelling, you might beg hospitality from a monastery or sleep outside. Sleeping outside means risking exposure, animal attacks and bandits. There's no weather forecasting. You don't know when storms are coming. You can't plan around weather. You just deal with whatever happens. Rain on harvest day? Your crops might rot. No rain during growing season? Your crops fail and you starve. There's no communication infrastructure. No mail service for peasants. If you want to send a message to someone in another village, you walk there yourself or convince someone travelling that direction to carry a verbal message. Written messages don't exist for you because you can't write. There's no banking, no safe place to store money. You hide it in your house, where it could be stolen or lost in a fire. You have no money anyway, but if you did, there'd be nowhere safe to keep it. There's no insurance. When disaster strikes, you're on your own. House burns down, build a new one yourself, or live outside. Crop fails. Hope you stored enough to survive or prepare to starve. Lose your animals? You're ruined. There's no safety net. There's no retirement. You work until you physically cannot work anymore. Then you become dependent on your children to care for you. If you have no children, or they refuse to help, you become a beggar. Medieval society has no pension system, no social security, nothing. Now let's discuss women's lives specifically, because they have it even worse than men. Women are legally property, first of their fathers, then of their husbands. Women cannot own property, sign contracts, or represent themselves in court. Girls are married young, often as young as 12 or 13, to men chosen by their fathers. The marriage is a business transaction. The girl's feelings are irrelevant. She meets her husband on the wedding day. She has no choice in the matter. Marital rape doesn't exist as a concept. A wife's body belongs to her husband. He can demand sex whenever he wants. Refusal can result in beating. There's no legal recourse, no one to report it to. This is just how marriage works. Women are expected to be constantly pregnant. Contraception doesn't really exist. Women have baby after baby until they die in childbirth or become too old. Having 10 or 12 children is normal. Watching half of them die is also normal. Pregnancy and childbirth are incredibly dangerous. No prenatal care, no understanding of nutrition or health during pregnancy. Labour happens at home with a midwife who has no medical training. Complications mean death for mother, baby, or both. Women do back-breaking labour while pregnant. They work in fields, carry heavy loads, and perform all their regular duties until they go into labour. Rest during pregnancy is a luxury that doesn't exist for peasant women. After giving birth, women are expected to resume work immediately, maybe a day or two of rest, then back to cooking, cleaning, farming, and caring for other children. There's no maternity leave, no recovery time, just get back to work. Women are blamed for stillbirths and infant deaths. If a baby dies, it must be the mother's fault. Maybe she sinned, maybe she didn't pray enough. The grief of losing a child is compounded by social blame. Women who cannot have children are considered worthless. A woman's value is in producing heirs. Infertility means shame, possible abandonment by the husband, and social isolation. Widows have it particularly bad. A widow might lose her home because property goes to male heirs. She might be forced to remarry quickly to avoid destitution, or she might become a beggar because she has no means of support. Women are excluded from most occupations. They can't be clergy, scribes, or skilled craftsmen. They're limited to domestic work, textile production, and farming. They earn less than men for the same work. Women are considered morally weak. Church doctrine teaches that women are more susceptible to sin, more emotional, less rational. This justifies their subordinate position and their lack of rights. Women face constant threat of violence. Domestic violence is legal and common. Sexual assault happens frequently. Women travelling alone are extremely vulnerable. There's no protection, no authorities who will help. Now imagine you're a modern person suddenly dropped into this world. You have modern sensibilities, modern expectations, modern needs. How long would you last? You'd be shocked by the filth. Modern people are used to cleanliness. You shower daily. You wash your hands regularly. You brush your teeth. You wear clean clothes. You live in sanitized environments. The medieval dirt, smell, and filth would be immediately overwhelming. You'd be horrified by the food. You're used to fresh vegetables, seasoned meat, varied meals. You expect food to taste good. You expect clean water. The reality of pottage 3 times daily, rock-hard bread, and warm, sour ale would revolt you. You'd be appalled by the living conditions. No privacy, no comfort, sharing space with animals and bugs, sleeping on straw with 10 other people. You'd feel claustrophobic and disgusted constantly. You'd be traumatized by the violence. You'd see animals slaughtered. You'd witness domestic abuse. You'd see public executions. You'd encounter death regularly. Modern people are sheltered from violence. This exposure would break you psychologically. You'd be devastated by the lack of medical care. First time you or a loved one got sick, you'd panic. You'd want doctors, hospitals, antibiotics. None exist. You'd watch people die from treatable conditions. The helplessness would destroy you. You'd be enraged by the social system. You're used to freedom, rights, and choices. Being told you're property, that you can't leave, that you have no say in your life would be intolerable. You'd rebel, and rebellion would get you killed. You'd miss modern comforts desperately. Your phone, your TV, your comfortable bed, your car, your hobbies. Everything that makes life enjoyable would be gone. The boredom and monotony would drive you mad. You'd be terrified constantly. Fear of disease, fear of violence, fear of starvation, fear of authority. Modern people live in relative safety. The constant danger would exhaust you. Your body couldn't handle the work. 12 hours of manual labor would destroy you. Your muscles aren't conditioned for it. Your hands would blister and bleed. Your back would give out. You'd collapse from exhaustion. So no, you wouldn't last a day in medieval times. You wouldn't even last a morning. The first time you had to use the communal poop bucket while making eye contact with your family, you'd give up. And that's okay. You're not supposed to survive medieval times, you're supposed to appreciate that you live in a time with running water, modern medicine, human rights, and toilets that flush. The Middle Ages were brutal, filthy, painful, and short. They weren't romantic, they weren't adventurous, they were just an endless struggle to survive in a world designed to kill you. So the next time you complain about your Wi-Fi being slow, your coffee being lukewarm, or your mattress being too firm, remember, at least you're not pulling a plough through frozen soil, while covered in lice, drinking beer for breakfast, and wondering which of your children will die this winter. Be grateful for the modern world. Be very grateful. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this descent into medieval misery, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what historical period you'd like me to cover next. Until then, enjoy your flush toilets, your clean water, and your lice-free existence. Good night. But before we end, let's talk about one final aspect of medieval life that truly separates it from the modern world: the complete absence of hope for change. In the modern world, even if your life is difficult, you can hope it will get better. You can get an education, change careers, move to a new city, reinvent yourself. The future holds possibilities. In medieval times, there is no hope for change. You are born into a position, and that position is fixed for life. Your father was a peasant. You are a peasant. Your children will be peasants. Your grandchildren will be peasants. This will never change. The feudal system is designed to maintain the status quo forever. The church reinforces this hopelessness by teaching that your position in life is God's will. Being born a peasant, that's God's plan for you. Suffering in poverty, God is testing you. Your Lord treating you terribly, God put him in authority over you. The only hope offered is that if you suffer patiently in this life, you'll be rewarded in the afterlife. Just endure the misery now, and heaven awaits. This creates a psychological prison as real as the physical one. You don't dream of escape because escape isn't possible. You don't imagine a better life because better lives are for other people. You just endure, day after day, year after year, until death finally releases you. Compare this to modern life. Even people in difficult circumstances can imagine improvement. A student working minimum wage can envision graduating and getting a better job. Someone in a bad relationship can plan to leave. A person unhappy with their body can work to change it. The future is open, full of potential. Medieval peasants have no such luxury. The future is just more of the same. More pottage, more backbreaking labour, more disease, more death. Nothing ever gets better. The best you can hope for is that things don't get worse. This affects psychology in profound ways. Modern depression often involves feeling hopeless about the future. But imagine if that hopelessness was completely rational, if there genuinely was no possibility of things improving. That's the medieval peasant's mental state as baseline reality. The calendar itself reflects this endless sameness. The year is marked by religious festivals and agricultural cycles: Christmas, Easter, planting season, harvest season. Every year the same events in the same order. You've seen this cycle 25 times. You'll see it 25 more times if you're lucky. Nothing changes. Even language reflects the static nature of medieval life. English, French, and other European languages at this time have much more rigid social hierarchies built into them. Different words for you, depending on social class. Different ways of addressing nobility versus commoners. The language itself reinforces that some people are fundamentally different from others. Stories and entertainment reinforce hierarchy too. Popular tales are about noble knights and ladies, not peasants. When peasants appear in stories, they're comic relief or victims. The heroes are always nobility. The message is clear. Greatness is for the upper classes. Know your place. Education, where it exists, is designed to maintain the system. Church schools teach reading and writing, but only to train future clergy. The curriculum includes Latin, theology, and church law. Nothing useful for improving a peasant's life. And peasants don't attend anyway. Education is for the clergy and nobility. Even technological innovation is stifled. New farming techniques are viewed with suspicion. Why change what's always been done? New tools might make work easier, but they also threaten the existing order. If peasants become more efficient, They might have time to think, to question, to organise. Better to keep them exhausted and hopeless. The rare instances of peasant revolt prove the rule. Occasionally peasants organise and rebel against their lords. The Peasants' Revolt in England in 1381 is one example. Thousands of peasants marched on London demanding an end to serfdom and unfair taxes. The revolt was brutally crushed. The leaders were executed in horrific ways as examples. The survivors went back to their fields. Nothing changed, except the peasants learned that rebellion leads to death. Any attempt to rise above your station is punished. A peasant who somehow accumulates wealth is viewed with suspicion. How did he get that money? Did he cheat his lord? Did he steal? Successful peasants become targets for both resentment from peers and exploitation from lords. There's no winning. Even physical appearance marks your class permanently. Peasants are shorter than nobility because of poor nutrition during childhood. Peasants' hands are rough and calloused. Their skin is weathered from outdoor work. Their teeth are missing or rotting. Their bodies are bent from labour. You can identify a peasant at a glance. They look different because they live different lives. Clothing reinforces class distinctions too. Sumptuary laws dictate what each class can wear. Peasants cannot wear certain colours, fabrics or styles. These are reserved for the upper classes. Wearing clothing above your station is literally illegal. You can be fined or punished for dressing too well. The legal system is designed to protect the powerful and control the weak. Laws are created by nobles for nobles. Peasants have almost no legal protections. A noble's word is worth more than a peasant's. In disputes, the noble always wins. Justice is whatever serves the interests of the ruling class. Think about what this does to the human spirit. Humans need hope. We need to believe things can get better. We need goals, dreams, possibilities. Medieval peasants have none of this. They have only survival and barely that. This kind of hopelessness is soul-crushing in ways modern people cannot comprehend. Modern poverty is terrible, but it's different. A modern person living in poverty still has access to public education. They can use public libraries. They can watch television and see other lives. They can dream of lottery wins or lucky breaks. They have some agency, even if limited. Medieval peasants have nothing. The psychological impact of this absolute powerlessness manifests in various ways. Superstition flourishes because people need to feel some control. If you can't control your lord or the weather or disease, maybe you can control spirits. Charms, curses, folk magic. These give an illusion of power in a powerless life. Religious fervour is partly psychological compensation. If this life is horrible and unchangeable, the next life must be better. The promise of heaven is the only hope available. So people cling to it desperately. They follow church rules meticulously. They attend every mass. They pray constantly. Because if heaven isn't real, then all this suffering is meaningless. Social bonds become crucial for psychological survival. Your family and village are your entire world. These relationships are the only source of comfort, support, and meaning in life. This is why exile or excommunication is such a severe punishment. Cutting someone off from their community is a form of death. Alcohol serves as self-medication. Everyone drinks ale throughout the day. Yes, it's safer than water, but it's also the only available escape from reality. The mild, constant buzz helps dull the pain, physical and psychological. Medieval people are functionally drinking all day, every day, and who can blame them? Violence becomes normalized as a release. Men fight each other over trivial slights. Domestic violence is epidemic. Children are beaten regularly. This violence is partly about control and partly about releasing the frustration of powerlessness. You can't hit your lord, but you can hit your wife or your children, or the guy who looked at you wrong. Animals suffer too. People take out frustrations on livestock, beating horses, kicking dogs, torturing cats. This cruelty to animals is disturbing but understandable in context. When humans are treated as property and worked to death, animals fare even worse. Mental illness is common but not recognized. People suffer from what we'd call PTSD, depression and anxiety disorders, but these aren't understood as medical conditions. They're attributed to demons, sin, or weak character. Treatment ranges from prayer to exorcism to beatings. No one recovers. They just suffer until they die. Suicide is considered the worst sin, guaranteeing damnation. But people still do it. Despair overwhelms fear of hell. They hang themselves, drown themselves, or poison themselves. The bodies are denied Christian burial. They're dumped outside consecrated ground. But death was still preferable to continuing to live. Child abuse is rampant. Children are beaten, starved, and worked like adults. Parents love their children, but they're also desperate and frustrated. Children become targets for that frustration. Hitting children is considered proper discipline. Extreme abuse raises no eyebrows. The concept of childhood as we understand it doesn't really exist. Children are just small adults. They work as soon as they're capable. They're expected to be useful. Play is limited. Education doesn't exist. Childhood is a brief period before you join the workforce. Elderly people who can no longer work become burdens. They're cared for by family out of obligation, but often resentfully. There's no value placed on age or wisdom. You're only worth what you can produce. When you stop producing, you become a mouth to feed and nothing more. The disabled have terrible lives. Physical disabilities from birth defects or accidents make work difficult or impossible. These people often become beggars. Society views them as cursed by God. People give them scraps out of fear, not compassion. If you're blind, deaf, or unable to walk, your survival depends on charity that may not come. Time perception is different in a world without progress. Modern people think in terms of past, present, future. We remember history. We plan for tomorrow. Medieval peasants live in an eternal present. Yesterday was the same as today. Tomorrow will be the same as today. Time doesn't move forward. It just cycles. There's no real concept of history as we understand it. Peasants know stories about the past, but they're mixed with myths and legends. There's no clear distinction between factual history and religious stories. Everything happened long ago in an undefined past that might as well be mythological. Similarly, the future is inconceivable, not just personally, but globally. The idea that the world might change, that technology might advance, that social systems might evolve, these thoughts don't occur. The world has always been this way. It will always be this way. Amen. Even death offers little relief in medieval thinking. You die, you're judged, you go to heaven, hell, or purgatory. But even in the afterlife, there's hierarchy. Saints in heaven have different ranks. Hell has different levels of punishment. Purgatory has graduated suffering. You can't escape hierarchy even in death. The psychological weight of this worldview is immense. Imagine living with the absolute certainty that nothing will ever improve, that you're trapped in your circumstances forever, that your children will suffer exactly as you suffered, that there's no escape except death, and even death might not bring relief if you're judged unworthy of heaven. Modern people sometimes romanticize medieval life. They think about knights and castles and imagine it was simpler, more authentic, more connected to nature. This is pure fantasy. Medieval life was brutal, hopeless, and short. The grinding poverty, the constant suffering, the complete lack of agency or hope, these would break modern people immediately. You wouldn't last a day in medieval times, not just because of the physical hardships, though those would destroy you. You wouldn't last because the psychological reality would shatter you. The complete absence of hope, agency, comfort, or possibility for change would drive you to despair faster than the filth, disease, and starvation could kill you. Modern life has problems. Inequality, stress, loneliness, climate change, political division, these are real and serious. But we have things medieval people never had. We have hope. We have agency. We have the possibility of change. We can imagine better futures and work toward them. We're not trapped in our circumstances forever. We have medical care that can cure diseases medieval people died from. We have sanitation that prevents plagues. We have education that opens opportunities. We have laws that provide some protection. We have technology that makes life easier. We have comforts that make existence bearable. Most importantly, we have the possibility of progress. Things can get better. We can learn, grow, change, improve. Our children can have better lives than we had. The future is open, full of potential. This hope, this simple belief that tomorrow might be better than today, is something medieval peasants never had, and something we should never take for granted. So yes, modern life is imperfect, but it's paradise compared to medieval times. You have opportunities medieval people couldn't even imagine. You have freedoms they never dreamed of. You have comforts they would consider miraculous. The next time you complain about your first world problems, slow Wi-Fi, cold coffee, uncomfortable shoes, remember the medieval peasant pulling a plough through frozen soil, eating grain paste for every meal, sleeping on bug-infested straw, and having absolutely no hope that anything will ever change. You live in the most prosperous, comfortable, free, and hopeful era in human history. Appreciate it, be grateful for it, and maybe think twice before saying you wish you lived in simpler times. There were no simpler times. There were only harder times, and you would not survive them. Thank you for joining me on this journey through medieval misery. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment about which historical period you'd like me to cover next. Until then, enjoy your modern comforts, your freedoms, and your lice-free existence. Good night.